care from people who care. Hello, today we are here at the Outreach Teen and Family Services office. I'm your podcast host, Jackie, and unfortunately Gina couldn't make it today, so Maggie Zangara, our Outreach Programmer Manager and Outpatient Therapist, will be our co-host today, and we're here today with Roman Benti, and we're going to be discussing the topic of humanitarianism.
Awesome! Well, thank you so much, Roman, for being here. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you. It's a joy to be here with you both today.
And I'd love to start us off with just learning a little bit more about each other in a fun way. So let's do a quick Fast Five.
Let's do it.
Okay.
I'm in.
So, everybody, first question. What's your current favorite food?
Oh, gosh.
Oh, man.
Oh, gosh. Probably a pulled pork sandwich with french fries.
Wow.
Been really going off with that lately.
Yum. From where?
I recently started working at Tequila Cowboy.
No way.
Wow.
So that's my favorite food at the moment.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I think I'd probably have to go with like a lox bagel. I had a really good one from Pigeon Bagel recently.
I'm obsessed with Pigeon Bagel.
The best. Yeah. Incredible staff, incredible people who run it. But yeah, great bagel.
Like top three I've ever had. Yes. I think I'm going to go with this thing called a pancake bowl. Basically, it's life-changing. And you put pancake mix, little liquid, in the microwave 2 minutes.
Okay.
Oh my god, you have one right here.
This is incredible.
Then I top it with like fruit and maple syrup. It's basically an on-the-go pancake.
Yeah.
Oh my
and it's
goodness.
like fluffy and amazing.
Maggie, that's a culinary revelation. That's amazing.
I can't take credit. YouTube is the one that enlightened me, but guys, you gotta try it. I can give you the recipe later.
Seriously.
Need it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Whoops. Everything went away. And we're back. Okay. Second question. Are you a morning person or a night owl?
Definitely a night owl. Waking up this morning was so hard. I was telling her when I was coming in here, I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't had coffee. I'm so tired. Just give me 5 minutes.
I feel that, and I love to romanticize myself as this like night owl, but I'm not at all. But then I'm like certainly most productive in the morning, and I love the feeling of being up and already kind of at my chair and like reading or writing by 7:30 if I can, with like a nice coffee and a candle. But the process to get there is so arduous, and I feel like every time I hear my alarm, I feel like I'm being ripped away from like a happy place, you know? So I guess a morning person, but begrudgingly.
I love that. Yeah, I don't think I'm either. I would be like, can I just be a sleeper? I just love quality sleep.
It's so important.
It is. I can just feel it like the next day. If I have a good sleep, I'm feeling amazing. And if I
Totally.
don't, oof, I'm a little sappy about a lot of things. But I want to be a morning person. I'm like,
me too.
I'm working towards it. Yeah. My alarm goes off at 7:15.
Nice.
And I sometimes get up.
I can't.
Most times I snooze till like, I won't say. That can be left a mystery.
That's crazy. I'll usually start at like 10 p.m. and then I will be so productive until like 2:30 in the morning. And I just work like that. I don't know why. It's been like that. So, but I do need to switch that because that's not healthy. But
maybe it's like a balance.
There's a balance to it. Yeah.
We all have a rhythm to our life, you know? And if that's the one that works for you, you can work with it, you know?
My circadian rhythm is a little...
Yeah, well...
I don't think you're alone with that. Okay. Art gallery or history museum? Which one would you rather visit if you could only visit one in a day?
History museum.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to go to the Smithsonian, and then also the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C. I still haven't gone to that yet, and I want to so badly, because our 6th grade field trip was to Washington, D.C., and like half the class, I'm still upset about this, half the class got to go there, and the other half like didn't, so I was that other half that didn't, and I want to go back, because it's only like an hour and a half away from me at home, so yeah.
Oh, you gotta do it.
I got to.
We might even be able to hook you up with a chaperone spot one day. We do help support field trips to DC and specifically to the Holocaust Museum. So.
Are you serious?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, they're absolutely phenomenal. It's a tremendous experience, and I mean, so is the Smithsonian. I don't know that I can choose. Those are like two of my greatest passions in life, and I love any form of storytelling, and I think the History Museum, especially I was just down at the Carnegie, and where you can do both, of course. But I guess if I really, really had to choose one, I would go art gallery. Just because you can kind of have a little bit of both, right? You can examine histories through the lens of art.
Point. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna ditto that.
Nice.
Yeah. But yeah, I think both are very, very important and influential in different ways. Okay, last question. TV series or movie? Like, which one do you just kind of? Which one do you like? Like more?
I'll say a TV series because I love documentaries.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love when they do like those elongated like 3 episodes of just anything. I think it's so fascinating. I'm a big like history nerd when it comes to television and shows and stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Any lately?
Well, as of right now, I'm starting Escape at Dannemore, which isn't a documentary. It's more just about the prison system.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like it's 7 episodes, but I don't know how long they are. It's on Paramount, so I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's such a good answer. I feel like you may have shifted me with your answer because I was thinking movie initially, and I don't know. There's just something about like. I don't know. The time window feels good for me. Like 90 minutes to 2 hours is very like palatable and nice. And it also, a movie feels like an achievement in the same way that like reading a book does to me in some way. Maybe just with like the enhanced cultural references and vocabulary you get or something.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think the docu-series format has really been capturing me lately. And I like the idea of anything being like serialized, It's kind of fun and exciting.
Sure. Have you seen Quiet on Set?
I sure have. I almost brought it up earlier when you mentioned I look like Josh Peck. I'm not on it fully, honestly. Yeah. I plan to watch the 5th episode tonight with my roommate. That's our plan. We're going to make City Chicken and watch that.
That's incredible.
Very cool. I think I'm going to go with TV series.
Nice.
I love that.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right.
Oh, we would like to pause and thank St. Clair Health for being our annual sponsor for the 3rd year of our podcast.
At St. Clair Health, we're always improving, building on our commitment to face the challenges of today, making an impact on the communities we serve, so we can be stronger together. St. Clair Health, expert care from people who care.
Awesome. Well, we're going to get into the first half of our content today.
Yay.
And first, we would just love for our listeners to get to know you a little bit better, Roman. So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Roman. I am so far a lifelong Pittsburgher.
Okay.
We'll see, where things go, but I really love Pittsburgh. I grew up in Shaler area, went to Shaler area, went to Pitt, go Panthers. And had a tremendous experience at Pitt, where I studied I studied urban studies and fiction writing, and spent a lot of time in the music scene, like WPTS radio stuff, the infamous Oakland house scene of that era. That was really great. And so I've been around for a long time, and I think I don't know, probably my main life experience that has kind of shaped everything was that growing up in 2004 and 2007, there were really bad floods that affected our school district and a lot of the neighborhoods. We lost my grandma's house that I lived in as a little kid. It got totally destroyed. Yeah, it was devastating. Oh yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah, no one got hurt, and everyone recovered as such. But that really did a lot to our school district in the town and our neighborhoods. Just spots that I went to growing up. I mean, literally the house I lived in at a point, just to be able to no longer return to that had a deep kind of impact on me. And so whenever I was in high school at Shaler area, there was an initiative to start a community library in Millville, the Millville Community Library. Oh, yeah. And yeah, it was in an old TV repair shop, and I was in this basically like a young social justice club called Youth Advocacy League. And our mentor there, one of my deepest mentors and a really good friend, Greg Dietz, who was employed by Pitt, but working in Shaler area, he got my friends and I involved with the project of building the library. And so we basically, like, we literally built it. Like, we, like, laid the floors and, like, hung drywall and, like, painted. And then in exchange, in exchange for that sweat equity, Brian Wolovich, who started the project, he would allow my friends and I to throw, like, punk shows and art shows there. And we would raise money. All the money would go to the library. Yeah. And it really taught me so much. I mean, this was, like, 17 years old. He would just, like, toss me the keys to this building. And so we would, like, there was electricity, but we would have to, like, cover holes in the floor. Like, it was, like, pretty wild when I think about it in retrospect. But it just taught me so much about community organizing, about third places, about the agency that, one gains from actually being able to take on projects that serve their community, and what that buy-in can kind of look like. If, I didn't go there to learn about nonprofits and community organizing. I went there because I thought I love reading and I love where I'm from, and was like, yeah, we need a library. Like, that would be cool. And then it was like, yeah, we can throw shows here. So, like, exactly, right? It's like you follow your charm, right? Like, what's charming you about that experience, and then it can kind of like lead into these different worlds for you, So that actually, I don't know, should I just start going into light? Because it's all kind of connected. Or...
Well, now we're leading question to light, but I just love what you just shared. I love this sentence of, like, follow your charm.
I can't take credit for that. I honestly met this incredible person, Katie, yesterday. I don't know if you'd be listening, Katie, but the story is too long to explain, but basically she showed up at the end of the field trip we had at the Voncomeros yesterday when one of my colleagues needed a car jump, and she had a Prius, so it's like a slightly different process. Oh, okay. And Katie just shows up out of nowhere, this incredible, like, woman, and she's just like, oh, like, I just followed my charm. I used to go to preschool here and felt like coming today, and I just learned how to jump my Prius like a month ago. Like, do you need help? And we were like in the rain, and I was like, what is happening? Like, who are you? But, so yeah, I'm now taking that with me, and I think I immediately felt like it applied to my life, and it's just cool whenever people drop in like that, like a real human moment,
Really special.
Yeah,
I love that. But yeah, we'd love to hear more about the work you're doing at the Light Education Initiative.
Absolutely. So I'll take us back to the library for some origin story purposes.
Sure.
So through my time at Pitt, the library opens its doors in 2013. And while I'm going to Pitt, I'm living in Bloomfield. So every Tuesday, I would just, like, walk down the hill, across the bridge, and hold like a book club, which kind of, like, eventually turned into like a young men's group, which was unexpected, but it was beautiful. Like, some of these young dudes that, like, wanted to talk about feelings. I was like, this is great. Yeah, like, we can, like, toss a football and you can tell me about your day, like, whatever we need to do,
Oh, you also made this, like, space very safe.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel like we had a really and still, it's still an incredible space, but really that was kind of the vibe of the space forever, is that it's more of a community center than a library. It's a community center with a library in a lot of ways. And it's attached to a tea shop, so you can really do whatever you want there. But yeah,
we need to go.
I need to go to Millville. Oh my God. It's the Millville Library is almost unequivocally my favorite place in the world. Like, standing in there, I'm just like, oh yeah, here I am,
Yeah.
But so I volunteered throughout my time at Pitt, and then whenever I graduate, in like the spring of 2017, I don't know what I'm doing, just graduated college. I don't know if anyone on the pod knows those feelings of being right at the end. So, it's a tremendous time, right? Yeah. And to, like we were saying, you just kind of feel like you're standing on the beach looking at the ocean ahead. You have the whole continent behind you,
For sure.
But I was fortunate enough, there was an entry-level position through a program called MakerCore, which is pretty similar to AmeriCorps. And it was around like the maker movement and kind of like STEM and what possibilities exist through that style of education. And so I came on for the summer, and then after the summer, the executive director was like, hey, can we just like hire you to be the youth like education programming person, you know? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. So we had a makerspace there, still do. But yeah, it was a really phenomenal experience, especially because I'm not very techie and like don't even really enjoy like coding or, you know, really a whole lot of tinkering. I'm way more like, I love, you know, but that was the cool thing. I could bring in programming that I loved too, you know? So we started like a music makers program where we like got instruments donated, and it was kind of like walk-in guitar classes. And I realized that like, you know, once you have the space, you can really do anything. So it was like my programming sort of had two kind of like sides to it. There was the kind of drop in and similar to like the young men's group, like, hey, we have this thing in front of us. Like we're going to do this simple sewing project or the simple painting project or whatever. But really it's about you just being able to come here, get some food. We like started like a after school kind of like feeding program and stuff like this. And just kind of like get whatever resources you need, but then come to the space and like talk about your day and let's just process and like see what the space can be, you know? So from there, in 2019, I reconnected with one of my favorite teachers from high school, the founder of Light, Nick Haberman. And because I was working in the school district I grew up in. And he just had this incredible group of students. And he was like, hey, we like, you know, started this advocacy project, and we're getting Indigenous Peoples Day recognized in Millville and on our school district calendar, and we want to like celebrate that somehow. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, we should like do like an intergenerational program at the library. And I was like, yeah. So we came together, and it was like amazing. Like he brought. We just made up a field trip. He brought his students down to the library, and it was part like learning about the story of the library, you know, because that's so important too, like our local histories, right? Like these kids were so little when the floods happened that they didn't really remember, and it's like, oh no, this is like the fabric of our school district. Like this is, you know, like framed my entire middle school and high school experience more or less. So we gave them that history, like, and then it ended up being like an intro to nonprofits, which was really fun and I like to nerd out about. And then it turned into this tremendous day of planning like this intergenerational celebration where we like connected with some incredible local Indigenous families in the school district and planned this amazing day of just like celebration. There was like storytellings, dances, like lacrosse demonstrations, like food to sample, like tea dye painting. And it was just amazing. Like it was just so good. And afterwards, Nick was kind of like, hey, so listen, like I'm starting this thing called Light, and it's an acronym that stands for Leadership Through Innovation in Genocide and Human Rights Teaching. So Nick's origin story is that he was tasked with teaching the Holocaust, like an elective about the Holocaust, when he was like 23, brand new teacher, and was like, I cannot screw this up. Like this is too important to screw up, you know? So he reached out to the Holocaust Center of Pittsburgh, who connected him to a survivor of the Holocaust, this incredible man, Jack Sitzhammer. Yeah, and it started this deep relationship of Nick bringing in speakers. I was fortunate enough to hear one, and then walk her to her car after when I was like 15. It was amazing. This incredible woman. Yeah, it really was, you know, and so Nick had kind of been like grooving on this idea for a long time of like, listen, like this is how we need to do, especially when you're teaching like human rights or genocide, like these really tremendously difficult concepts to understand. Like the best thing we can do, if we're able to, is connect with people who have this lived experience and frame this as a human storytelling experience, because that's what it is, right? Like that's what human rights teaching is, and what the humanities are, right? How do we study being human? How do we express that? What does it mean to explore all of these things? And so after, you know, him doing that for almost, 13 years, reconnecting with me, we do this incredible program with families from our district, like planned by and that was my favorite part was, well, the whole thing, but something that I really took away was, I had these middle school girls who just didn't listen to me at the library. Why would they? Like, shut up, Roman, like, kind of stuff. And they were wonderful, but they were, a bit of a thorn in my side at times, but oh my God, as soon as these high school students came in, and these cool older high school girls, they were like, oh my God, Like, I'm so mature. I'm so, and so we're like, wow, like that has so much value. Like intergenerational. Yeah. And being able to like see themselves in these older kids and be like, oh, look, it's cool to care about stuff. And look at how cool this is. And like, look, I know these families, like, like, and just to see them in this new context, in this new light, it was just so, oh, pun intended, I guess, in this new light. Yeah. It was really, thanks. It was really special. So, yeah, Nick basically was like, okay, here's like, I've been talking with the folks at the Holocaust Center. And of course, this is a year after the terrible tragedy of the Pittsburgh synagogue shooting. So that really kind of changed the mission of the Holocaust Center of Pittsburgh in a lot of ways, and really wanted to deepen how, they were combating like hate and anti-Semitism in schools, and what it would look like to have more of like a direct outreach program with schools. Yeah. And that was kind of like what brought it all together. Nick was kind of like, hey, like, I'm talking to the folks at the HCP. We really want to do something like, they recognize what I'm creating with Light, and we want to start getting it into more schools and think about what this really is and what we're doing. And he basically, he had me hooked already, but he used the phrase at one point, like, it's like I'm trying to create like humanities maker spaces and create like, kind of like the yin to the yang of STEM, and being this like project-based learning model for humanities and human rights teaching. So that's how Light came together. And of course there's the pandemic. So that was like, I left the library during that time and started working directly with Nick on figuring out this program. But yes, as it stands, we're working in like 16 different school districts now in Southwestern PA. And that'll be expanding next school year as we deepen our relationships with the Allegheny Intermediate Unit, which is really exciting. Yeah. And we're now, there's the Holocaust Center of Pittsburgh has joined under the umbrella of the newly formed Tree of Life Incorporated. It's a nonprofit to building a new resilience center and like museum on the site of the Tree of Life. So we're so fortunate to be able to work with all these incredible human beings. And I don't know, I've been talking for a while. I'll step back. I'm sorry, but that's kind of the gist of the origin story.
Right. That's incredible. You can really tell like how passionate you are about the work that you do, and that's just so amazing. When you mentioned like the synagogue situation, I would go to Chabad like very frequently. And so when that occurred, I kind of had to take a step back and, alter everything that was going on. And just even within like the past couple of months, some situations that I've been in have felt very unsafe. But again, everything that they've done to repair that framework has been truly incredible. I don't know if you saw like the handprints on like the fence. It's really beautiful, honestly. But as you mentioned, like Light, what was one thing that you're like still striving for within like your program?
Oh man, so many. I think the most exciting thing for me personally right now is we were fortunate enough to get a moonshot grant from Remake Learning. Shouts out Remake Learning.
Shout out.
Incredible. Some incredible folks over there doing great work. But Remake is this really, they're really interested in connecting any education space and any type of education, and whether that's teaching artists or in school classroom-based teachers, out of school time providers, and trying to imagine what the geography of learning looks like in our region. And so we got this proposal for this project called Remake Civics, and what we're doing is trying to figure out what our programming looks like in a connected sequence from kindergarten through 12th grade. So it's really important to name and acknowledge and be on record saying that Light does not create curriculum. We do not create curriculum. What we do is create culminating curricular anchor points. So it's these experiences, whether that's a field trip in an out-of-school setting or helping work with students and teachers to design their own in-school programs or summits where you invite multiple schools into your school district for a shared program. And so we started doing this with middle school and high school students mostly, and that was largely because of the connection to genocide and human rights teaching. It's like typically you don't start until that age. But then we met this incredible man. Shouts out Don Alexander. He is a wonderful educator in the Carlinton School District who worked in K through 6 and still does. But he recently got an elevated position where he's now like the community like education coordinator.
Okay.
And is like very specifically now spends half of his time thinking about these sort of different ways we can connect our schools to our communities and what that looks like. So we were just, you know, on the same kind of like parallel paths and then connected.
Yeah.
And Don helped us realize that like, oh, this program is actually going to be the most effective if we can start in kindergarten. And like, because that's it, right? You know, and so the way we're talking about it and thinking about it is that in primary or the elementary level, our sequence, our overall sort of, you know, pedagogy that we think in is called Inspire, Prepare, Empower. And this is something that Nick sort of learned through observing the way Jack Sitzhammer would tell his survival story from the Holocaust, is that he would inspire students, then he would prepare them to be able to like take these stories with them and then empower them to share it with other students, you know? So all of our programs, we try to have some element of like, okay, we inspire you. It's something really exciting, whether it's an incredible teaching artist or an incredible space or like some kind of amazing experience, a storyteller, right? Yeah. And then after everyone gets excited, we do actually some basic, basically intro to community organizing workshops that we've kind of refined through the work of Marshall Gans and the Harvard Kennedy School of Public Policy. It's a really great framework called Story Self Us Now, Public Narrative, that we've been really, really engaged in. And so we'll go in and work with students and teachers in a prepare phase where we're actually like, okay, so like, what do you care about? Like, what do you all care about like individually? Then what do you care about collectively? And like, what's the story of now in our school, in our community? Like, what are the urgent challenges we're facing? And what can we achieve if we acted together? Like, we can support you through light. We can connect you to other community partners. And then we empower them by literally like not only connecting them to these partners, but connecting them to resources and funding. So we work really closely with foundations in Pittsburgh. Shouts out Grable and Jack Buncher and all these really incredible folks that believe in this work. To actually be able to give basically mini grants to these students and programs to be able to do it. So we've been doing all of our programming like that since we started. And now with this Remake Civics grant, we're like, wait a minute. What if we think about the whole K through 12 sequence as Inspire, Prepare, Empower? Yeah. So now we're working like, okay, like the elementary schools, it's Inspire. It's all about like your neighborhood and your community. So it's inspiring good neighbors. You know, what does it mean to be a good neighbor? Like, who's in my community? Like, how do I show them love? Like, how do I like bring them into conversations and create, you know, equity essentially, but we're not using that word in elementary school necessarily. And then in middle school, it's about preparing citizens. So that's when we start to like do more field trips to some of the like essential places we consider like essential to Pittsburgh regional context, right? So the August Wilson Center, the Vonka murals, with Big Carry Furnaces and Rivers of Steel, right? And so that's when the kids are really expanding this idea of like, oh, like it's not just my neighborhood. I belong in the civic system and in this interdependent kind of regional thing, you know? Yeah. And then the last piece is empower humanitarians. So that's when it's like, okay, like now we're actually empowering you to more directly think about how you want to affect change, like in your school district, locally, immediately, but also throughout the region and also in a broader context. So it's a lot of programs, like I said, where you know, we have one in Montour coming up. There was the incredible Woodland Hills Student Summit last month, but it's students planning these events and then bringing students and teachers from other schools to their district in a non-competitive setting to just celebrate each other's humanity and learn together. So yeah, I'm like really excited. It's a really exciting moment. Yeah.
It's so wonderful when people are passionate.
Yeah. Thanks.
It's so good. That's definitely what I hope everyone strives for in their line of work.
Me too.
Yeah. All right. Well, I would like to pause and thank St. Clair Health for their generosity in sponsoring the 3rd season of Teams Tap In.
At St. Clair Health, we're always improving, building on our commitment to face the challenges of today, making an impact on the communities we serve so we can be stronger together by creating reliable resources that recognize all of our neighbors with access to the highest quality healthcare, advanced care close to home, and a shared humanity that delivers on our joint vision to create a healthier community for all. St. Clair Health, expert care from people who care.
So diving into the second half of this show's content, we're going to be talking about humanitarianism and what all of that is about, and the importance of supporting and uplifting others. So, Roman, what is humanitarianism to you?
Such a great question. You know, I think at our most basic level, it's an invitation for us to honor and explore our own humanity and understand how that relates to the humanity of others, you know? So first and foremost, like, we ask kids a lot, I've been doing this recently, like, what do you like about being human? Like, what makes you excited, you know? And it's sweet, because some kids will just be like, pizza, you know? But then other kids will be like, friendship, you know? And it's just like these really beautiful answers. And I don't know, I just, you know, I think it's a really beautiful, sacred thing to be a human being and to get to be in community with other human beings and get beyond ourselves and recognize, you know, that everybody has, you know, we're all the main character in our own story, right? So yeah, to me, like, humanitarianism is an opportunity to celebrate and explore that, and to really be able to learn how to deeply listen to those that we're in community with, you know, and learn when it's time to step back or when it's time to step up, you know, and even more challenging things like how can we be both in community and in conflict, you know. I think that's a deep humanitarian question that our whole culture and society can spend some time exploring. You know, because it's not just like, oh, you think something different of me, well, I hate you and you're trash. You know, that's just not good. That's just not gonna work, you know. So we gotta get beyond that and spend some more time just sitting, being with each other, listening, and celebrating each other's humanity.
I love that.
Absolutely.
And within these programs that you're doing with all these amazing middle schools, high schools, and now working towards like the elementary population as well, what have you noticed with these programs and how students are responding or becoming empowered?
Yeah. Oh man. I'll just tell you about last Friday. We had an awesome, and so it's with Remake Civics, we're partnering, like, basically we're working really closely with Dawn in the Carlinton School District to kind of like be our prototype, right? You know, and it's great. They're a small district, deep, rich history, just a fascinating, really cool place. So he connected us, and this is kind of how our model works too, right? It's like we're trying to prepare all of the teachers that we work with in different schools and school districts to be like community organizers within their own school district, right? And for others to be able to see them as a resource and a connection to the broader light community. Yeah. So Dawn had a 5th grade ELA teacher, Renee Gatos, shouts out Renee, she's incredible, doing a poetry unit. And she was like, I really want to do something special this year, but I don't really know what that's going to be. Like, I think we want to do like a poetry reading in the community or something. And Dawn's like, that's pretty cool. I'm going to like throw this over to Light and see what we can kind of like think about. Yeah. And we ended up connecting Renee and Dawn and working with you know, the design process we undergo when we're designing these programs. We call it co-design. And it's just the idea that, you know, as much as possible, whoever is going to participate in or benefit from the program has a deep say in what the design of that program will look like. Okay. You know, so we got together with City of Asylum, and their youth poet laureate emeritus, Danielle Obisili Orlu, one of the most brilliant young people that I've met. She is doing her PhD at Cornell right now. She's 22, and she came back to Pittsburgh to lead. So basically, what happened was we took these students on a field trip to Alphabet City, City of Asylum space on the north side. Danielle came back and hosted this beautiful, like, what is poetry workshop with these students, and these 5th graders wrote the most incredible poems ever. And I know this because, again, this is co-design. We actually thought we were just gonna like let them, like, we had somebody like shop for books or whatever, like buy something, but they were like, no, there's a stage here, and our incredible friend Alexis from COA was the back of house manager and was helping us run the program. She was like, yeah, we can just do this. Like, we can just like set you up on stage. So these kids decided to do an impromptu poetry reading, and couldn't like stop. Like and then it was amazing. They just were all reading their poems, kept writing the whole time. We took them on a walking tour to see the Samsonia Way houses, the poetry houses City of Asylum has, because that was the theme of the trip, is like, what all can a poem be? And it's like, well, it can be all these styles of poem, but it can also be a poem on a house. It can be a physical space, you know? And it's just like the way these kids, I mean, how vulnerable they were, how excited they were to express themselves. And we got, it was amazing. One was an email from a parent, and one was like a screenshot of a chat, like the teacher's group chat at Carnegie Elementary. And they were like, what happened today? Like, these kids won't stop talking about poems and poetry. And like, they're like talking about like asylum and like, like what it means to like have a place to be, and like how important that is to have a home. And like, so it's just like, I think kids right now need tangible experiences with each other and with other human beings, cool adults, like be able to see yourself in this person that's amazing and does all these things that you haven't been able to think of before. So it's really these aha moments of the students like understanding that they have so much more agency and there's so much more to explore in this world if you're willing to step into it, and we see it in students as young as 5th grade doing an impromptu poetry slam, and we see it in our high school students who like work together, with students from other schools on combining these programs. And it's just like the friendships they develop and the ways that they talk about like just human stuff, like human rights education. It's like I don't know, it's amazing to be able to take these really heavy, deep, important concepts and explore them in a way that is both age appropriate and invites everybody to bring them their full self into the space. So I think that's it, just kids like truly like being like, wow, yeah, like I'm excited about learning again, and I'm excited to meet people again. Those are the two biggest ones, I
think that's so important, because especially now, what you were saying, having agency going into these like relationships with just human beings, there's so many iPad babies and technology where we miss that so much. And I just feel like it's very hard to create these friendships and transcend into like a beautiful environment. And so I love like how you're talking about all these like experiences that you're having with even these like younger generations, which is so important, because I feel like we really miss out on all of those things. And I just wish sometimes we could just like take a step back and just appreciate like the world around us and see that for a whole. So I love what you're saying.
No, me too. I try to every day. It's like it's difficult, but you're right. And I think there's a beautiful responsibility to like working in education, and I grew up very Catholic. I'm not very Catholic anymore, but one thing that always really stuck with me is this concept of a vocation, like this like deep spiritual calling to like give back to your community in one way. Like, what way do you want to do that? And I think, so many of the educators that we're fortunate enough to work with, like, have deeply responded to that calling and understand that it's our responsibility as the adults to just set the stage and create the space and like nurture the conditions for learning. And if we're able to do that successfully, then like the best moments for us is like specifically when we've helped with all the behind the scenes work for months at times, and then the actual event comes, no one even knows we're there. Like, we're just like in the background because everybody is doing everything, and it's amazing, So yeah, it's cool.
We are sadly running out of time, but I would love to end with Roman. Like, what advice would you give to individuals who are interested in pursuing like a volunteer opportunity, or they have this chirp in them about, vocation.
Yeah.
But there might be other noises around them or distractions. Like, what advice would you give young people who pursue something that is really to their core what they believe in?
Totally. I'm gonna borrow my friend from yesterday, Katie's advice. Follow your charm. Yeah, Katie rips. I'm excited to remain in community with Katie, but follow your charm. I think in the workshop we do, the story of Self Us Now, that's like the first kind of question is like, what do you care about, and what stories could you tell about like that, why you care, So it's like, it'll often be something like, well, I really care about, like animal rights, and it's because like there was this like bird one time and my mom and I saved it, and it's like we all have these stories that we can go back to, that have these deep defining influential moments for what we care about. So think about what you care about, and then take a step outside, to your point. It's like, there's just, I think the most important thing we can do right now is continue to explore, create common spaces for people to interact and explore where those spaces exist. I love libraries. I'm a huge library person. They're a great equalizer in our society, right? Yeah. Like, go to your library, see what's going on. There's absolutely a volunteer board where you can check everything out, but just really like, I don't want to sound like a Luddite or some like anti-tech person, but like we're doing a podcast right now. There's so many gifts and amazing things from tech, right? But I think to really just step out into your community, take a walk around, take in what's happening. I mean, those are the two steps, so what do you care about, and what stories can you tell about it? And then step out in the community and listen and see who's speaking to you, and follow that charm.
Mm-hmm. That's incredible. Well, lastly, this podcast would not be possible without the support of St. Clair Health. Please listen to the following ad.
At St. Clair Health, we're always improving, building on our commitment to face the challenges of today, making an impact on the communities we serve, so we can be stronger together. St. Clair Health, expert care from people who care.
Thank you to all of our listeners for our support, and thank you, Roman, for coming. Everything that you've said is absolutely wonderful, and I hope that inspires everybody.
Thank you for having me. You run a wonderful podcast, and you're both great. This was really fun.
And Roman, if people are interested in learning more about your organization, where can they find you?
Absolutely. We're on Instagram. I believe the Light_Education Initiative. If you search the Light Education Initiative on Instagram, it will certainly pop up. And our creative director, Nicole, does an incredible job with all of our art and tech and media needs. And we also have our website, thelightinitiative.org, which I believe will also be, we're debuting a new website. I don't know when this episode comes out, but in a few weeks. So it should be nice and fresh. Cool. Yeah, which is exciting.
So a new episode of Teens Tap In drops the third Thursday of every month.
Sweet.
So stay tuned, everybody.
Very cool.
And if you're interested in learning more about Outreach's counseling services and educational programs, check out their website at outreachteen.org. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Roman.
The views and opinions expressed in the Teens Tap In podcast represent the opinions of the hosts and their guests. The views and opinions expressed by Outreach Teen and Family Services employees, donors, and volunteers are their own and do not necessarily reflect the view of Outreach Teen and Family Services or the show's sponsors. The content here should not be taken as counseling advice. The content here is for informational purposes only, and because each person is unique, please consult your mental health provider or physician for any mental health counseling or other medical questions. The podcast should not be used in any legal capacity whatsoever, including, but not limited to, establishing a standard of care in a legal sense, or as a basis for expert witness testimony. No guarantee is given regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on the podcast. If you find any error in any of the content of the podcast, please contact us at podcasts@outreachteen.org. Outreach Teen and Family Services, its sponsors, donors, and partners expressly disclaim any and all liability or responsibility for any direct, indirect, incidental, special, consequential, or other damages whatsoever arising out of any individual's use of, reference to, reliance on, or inability to use this podcast or the information presented in this podcast. Please go to www.outreachteen.org to see the complete notice and disclaimer for the podcast episodes.